Hey everyone, Phoneybeetlemaniacxs back here, and I'm with you once again. So, Man of Steel, I thought it was okay. There was flaws with it, but I thought it's not as bad as everyone's making it out. But I don't think it's it's not bad enough to be mediocre, or bad enough to be atrociously bad. It's just okay. I think that the problems with it wouldn't. If the problems with it were a little less, I'd say it was pretty good. If there was less problems with it and more focus on character, I would have said it was excellent. But as it is, it's okay. It's just above a mediocre for me. Secondly, I did a discussion with Christopher Maute. Posted that down below. Go watch it. Third thing is, this is a response to Chthonios. Chthonios. You know, I've heard it pronounced both ways, but I say Chthonios because, well, I'm me. Now, he made a video called "So the Bible is Wrong," in which he talks about the genealogies of Jesus and how what was the moral there, blah 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 blah. Well, there isn't a moral. This is their particular try tracing back their history in the same way that we do now. It wasn't said that this was the history of mankind, and there are poetic and things in there. Now, the problem is taking one part of any book and saying this is how it's all meant to be read, especially with something like the Bible, which is a compendium of different types of writing. And this isn't just me saying this is scholarship saying that. So, we have to avoid, and I put myself in this, we have to avoid our own biases coming through. So the way to avoid that is scholarly consensus and textual criticism, in which we do things called cross-reading. We do things like, for example, does this fit into all the manuscripts? Is there a reason that it wouldn't appear in certain sort of manuscripts? Is there a reason that it may appear in one book but it doesn't appear in others? We have to take those things into account. And what way is this book to be read? Those are things that are important whenever we do any sort of textual criticism. It doesn't matter whether it's a factual book or a fiction book. Those are authorial intent is something that we have to contend with. Now, you saying the genealogies prove that it's meant to be taken literally is nonsense. It's as nonsense as me saying, well, Psalms proves it's not meant to be taken literally at all. It's that sort of argument. But again, it isn't an argument because, again, Psalms is its own thing and the genealogy is its own thing. Now, we look at the flood. And is that a local flood? Yes, by the connotations it is. Because there's no way that Moses could have known everybody in the known world. He would have to have visited every single person in the known world, from down in Africa to Babylon to Samaria to places that were actually at war with the Jewish race at that time. And I don't think he was going to get to know them very well. So again, from the context, it's very clear it's a local flood. Secondly, the whole 6,000-year-old Earth thing. It isn't. It doesn't say anywhere that it's 6,000 Earth. It's not even done by the connotations. The way people read it is because the term day can mean Levantine, can mean week, can mean month, yeah. Again, this is the problem with Hebrew, is that you've got different terms that can mean different things, and when you've got people who translate it for a language, sometimes they don't get the nuance there, especially when you're translating in English, in which we have very definite terms for these sort of things. Okay, so that is an important tool, is going about and making sure we do these properly. Now, the scholarly consensus is very clear on what it is. Now, anybody who reads any book has to, I personally rely on scholarly consensus, because again, I do recognise that I have my own biases being a Christian. And the way that they get around that is that there are scholars on both sides. There are scholars who are non-believers. There are scholars who are Jewish. There are scholars who are Hindu. There are scholars who are Shintoists. The scholars coming from different thought backgrounds, and if they could come to a consensus on a particular chapter or a particular book, then they tend to go with that. Now, I've never seen a scholarly consensus that has done what you just did, which is take the genealogy and say that proves it was meant to be taken literally. All that proves it to them, and again, I'm going by what they've said about the chapters those preparing, which is I think it's Matthew and Luke, is that the Jews were basically leading up to Jesus, going begat, 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 begat. Our people were chatting and quoting the history, and I repeat the history as they've been told it. Okay, so you mentioned Pandem again. Well, again, Pandem wasn't in the area we're talking about. It wasn't in the it's in Mesoamerica, from what I know. Whereas what I'm talking about is Middle East, northern tip of Africa, which would flood most of the time. And I imagine that as it's near the water, it's near the bed, water would probably come down a little bit. That's probably one of the reasons they had to move. Is that would probably happen more often than not in the time period we're talking about. So, is interpretation key? Yes, it is. Any interpretation you bring to a piece of work is key. Now, is your interpretation bad? I would argue it is, because it's based upon 19th century scholarship and not on 21st century scholarship. So we have to be clear on this. We have to make sure that we follow our scholars. Now, you can believe whatever you want about the Bible. Again, I don't tell people how to interpret books, but I would argue that again, what you're doing is a very literalistic version of something that again, you're taking something that is and then saying, well, we have to provide this interpretation to it to be able to understand it, and I don't get that. Anyway, this is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, 4 dreams, 1 true out.